Hi, and welcome to the AWS Migration and Modernization podcast. I'm Brad Savenko with ProServe Expert Services. I run the Migration and Modernization team, and today I'm joined with Yasir. Yasir?
Hi, I'm Yasir Raja from the Expert Services team. I lead the data and AI ML practice, and happy to be there, Brad, to talk to you about this migration and modernization journey of our customers.
Excellent. So today we have a pretty good topic set lined up. We're going to speak about how AI is influencing how we do customer migrations and how we basically do everything at AWS these days, and how it influences and accelerates customer outcomes for us. So we're going to speak about migration, modernization, and how it influences our customers and the data that's incorporated with that. Yasir?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are working on day-to-day basis with a vast variety of our customers. They have different types of use cases, different challenges, and we are going to touch upon some of those challenges and how we are bringing in AI. So, let's get into it, Brad.
Well, let's first level set. And you and I have been doing this for quite some time. I think we've been working together in similar roles at AWS for a while now. And within ProServe, I think customers have choice, first of all. It's either DIY, do it yourself. It's okay, it's a little complex, work with partners. And then if it's really complex or they just need that extra level of assurance, they call ProServe and we engage with them. Now, we have a tried and true way of doing migration and modernization, but these days AI is influencing a lot more of that. So Yasir, in your opinion, how much is AI influencing what we do on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, Brad, we are in the calls. You would vouch for that every meeting, every conversation we are having, almost every time, there is a mention of AI. How we can do same thing differently with the AI capabilities. That's what our customers are asking. That's what our internal builders are working on. Within ProServe as well, we are reimagining how we have been doing things. We are creating these agents to take over and clone Brad and Yasir at some point in time. Hopefully not too soon. Then we will move on to more complicated challenges. So that's what we are doing, building those agents that can accelerate the outcomes for our customers.
Okay, so just to estimate, I'm going to go with 100% of our customer conversations and our day-to-day work is inclusive of AI. Yeah?
Absolutely, I agree with that. There are other elements like customers talk about cost and different aspects of agility, but AI is now the center stage of those conversations. So absolutely.
Okay. All right. So let's actually go a little bit deeper and dive deep on how exactly is AI influencing. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So within ProServe Migration and Modernization, we have a tried and true process, which is assess, mobilize, and migrate. And what those terms mean is assess, figure out what the estate or the as-built environment looks like for a customer so we can make some decisions pretty quickly about how to proceed with the migration. Then mobilize is all about, okay, let's set up the tools and the people. And it's not just technology, it's actually people, process, and technology for that mobilize stage. And then it's deliver the goods, do the job. And that's doing the migration and modernization at scale. And that's where AI is having 100% impact on every single one of those stages. So let's just start with how we incorporate it into our daily lives. And there's this flywheel that we've all been speaking about. So let's talk about that flywheel in terms of how it impacts what we do for our customers and our team.
Yeah. Within our team, Brad, what we are doing is we are revisiting and checking how we can bring in these automations. We are experimenting. We are taking those to actual live production. We test them out, learn from those patterns, and then we take an constant improvement lifecycle. So this flywheel we are constantly using. We have developed some of the innovations, the agents that you and I are both using on day-to-day basis, Brad. And those agents some of them are helping accelerate our internal processes, and the other agents we are building specifically for customer use cases. So we have a vast variety of awesome services from AWS, which are making these migration and modernization journey easier for our customer, but at the same time, we are building stuff for internal processes, internal way of doing things. So I think it's innovation all the way. So we are constantly thinking and constantly improving.
Constantly doing, okay. All right, so two things then. Let's talk about the flywheel one more time, and then talk about how it's impacting our processes and customer outcomes and our delivery projects that we're doing. So the flywheel is experimenting with some of the tools and then creating an agentic sort of capability. And what I mean by that is agents that others can leverage. And then you get a collection of agents, and pretty soon everyone's experimenting and producing agents that we can combine together to have a more impactful experience for ourselves. And one of the ways I think about this is we're surrounding ourselves with a constellation of agents, and that really accelerates what we do and the amount of outcomes that we can have with customers and the volume of work we can take on, because we all know we're busy. And AI, what I'm finding is it's a tool that we use internal for processes that we'll speak about and for customer-facing outcomes that's really being used in some profound ways that we'll speak about to accelerate our day-to-day internal activities and our external activities with customers. So let's now talk about some of the terms that we're going to speak about, so everyone's familiar. We have our rapid migration and hyperautomation, which is the traditional way that customers have been doing migrations. But what are some of the AI services that we're offering to customers?
Yeah, so one of the flagship service, AWS Transform, is out there. It is enabling our customers to migrate their VMware workloads. It is enabling customers to migrate their .NET Framework application to cross-platform .NET. We also have AWS Transform supporting mainframe workloads. So that is one of our key services. Then we have integrated development environment, Kiro. It is in pre-release, but it is amazing. I've spent some time playing with it. The amount of developer productivity that it brings to the table, it's amazing. In migration and modernization journey, leveraging Kiro and other services that we have can really accelerate your cycle to the outcomes you're looking for. So for example, in Kiro, it not just allows you to do vibe coding, you can give it specs to develop the code. You can tell it to build your CI/CD pipelines for you, and it can help you deploy your whatever you've developed to the target. Rapid prototyping and all that. So really powerful tool that we'll talk about. Then we have our other services. Database migration services came up with schema conversion with GenAI capability. We'll touch upon that as well, Brad, because a number of customers are benefiting from that power. And not to forget our Amazon Q. The Q developer specifically, because I put on my developer hat, love to leverage that capability in our migration, modernization, and overall transformation cycles.
Yeah, that's a good point, because back to the constellation concept surrounding people, it's also surrounding the capabilities and services, the professional services that we deliver to customers. So let me just try and summarize that. So we have our rapid migration and hyperautomation with assess, mobilize, and migrate. And then some of the tools you mentioned, Q Developer, where allows us to reverse engineer some of that code and write documentation for that code, or transform that code into new languages, so taking COBOL to Java as an example, or taking the business logic from those applications and completely replatforming those applications to alternative platforms like Lambda functions as an example. So that's the Q Developer. And then we have AWS Transform for migrations and accelerating migrations of VMware, .NET applications, and mainframe, which we'll talk about. And then we have the Kiro integrated development environment, pre-release still, but that's where some of the magic happens, where you can literally use natural language to prototype rapidly and ultimately rebuild and re-architect and re-platform applications. All of these tools combined create that people, process, and technology experience, and we call that all the migration factory when we engage with our customers.
Yeah.
So on the note of customers, then, we see a lot, and I'm not saying we've done it all and seen it all, but ProServe has helped thousands of customers migrate to the cloud. So let's maybe try and categorize the 3 or 4 different types of customers that we see. Do you have any ideas of what you're commonly seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we work with so many different customers. Some of the customer fit the pattern of it is more or less a traditional kind of migration. We know what needs to be done. It is standard rehost patterns, and we have tried and tested methodology for them. Then we come to some complex workloads. There are certain things which cannot be simply migrated. We need to take care of upskilling of the customers. We need to take care of some legacy workloads that need to be probably re-platformed. Then we have these complex environments where there is regulatory data. We need to think through how we help customers with their security needs, their target architecture, what fits best in order for them to be compliant with whatever their requirements are. And then there are customers who are really eager to innovate. We get involved with them and we get them started. I'm sure there are multiple examples with you, Brad, as well, but they start innovating, leveraging our agentic AI capabilities or other services to create those frameworks to accelerate their migration and modernization journeys. So yes, we see diverse type of customers. And within ProServe, our key thing is we see where the customer is in their journey, and we work with them, bring in our services, the power of capabilities, and our skilled experts to help customer with their journey.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm glad we're, of course, doing this podcast together because it's migration, modernization, inclusive of data. But I want to be clear of some of the customers that we've done is it's often the entire estate. Not just a VMware migration, not just a mainframe migration, pardon me. Sometimes once we start to deliver the goods in terms of doing a migration, the reconsideration is just do the entire thing. Get me out of these data centers. And to put some scope around that, data centers vary in size. It can be a couple of servers in the basement of someone's house, which I've seen before with a high availability cable connected to the house next door in some cases. In other cases, it could be a raised floor room with all the fire protection and halon gas, old school stuff that running a mainframe. And these data centers vary in cost. It could be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions or upwards of $1 billion per year to maintain these. And that's the value of going to AWS is we eliminate those costs from the infrastructure and the concrete and steel and the servers and allow them to take advantage of all of the services we offer. So the 4 customers that come to mind, I know Ashish was part of this series, part of leading Danske Bank through their transformation. And that was a pretty complex migration. They had servers of all different types, Windows and Linux. They had mainframes in there and custom applications. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's a pretty classic migration experience for us. But then another one comes to mind, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, actually, who is moving to AWS. And they've taken a lot of these migration and modernization tools to really innovate and try and be ahead of their it's a competitive industry. They're trying to innovate and take share and maintain share in other groups based on DIY, do-it-yourself capabilities with all of our AI tools and migration and modernization capabilities. So we're really seeing, I guess what I'm saying is the full spectrum of customers coming our way.
And one of the things, Brad, we are seeing in this, the motivation for the customers, it is the traditional thought we know about in order to have agility, scalability of the cloud, the cost effectiveness. All those things still hold true, and it is very important for the customers. But what we see, another element coming into play, that the customers want to unlock the benefits of cloud to accelerate on the AI journey or machine learning models that they want to build. So on-prem in these data centers, typically what we see is that their data is siloed in different locations even, or different technology stacks. And it's very difficult to build something on top of that so that they can start leveraging the power of their data to come up with custom models and AI capabilities. So what we are doing, we are seeing customer ask is help them build the modern data platform in AWS so that they can start innovating on top of that. So the motivation, this is coming up a lot, and it's shifting from only cost discussions to how do we start innovating by getting to AWS faster.
That's a good point. So let me try and summarize. It's a cost savings by moving to AWS.
Yeah.
It's a ability to have increased agility by taking on new capabilities that they literally did not have access to before. And then it's about, I think, serving their customers in a new and better way with less resources. I mean, less complexity of applications, maybe repurposing databases to databases that they should be used for. We'll get into that in the modernization space for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think just the overall value of eliminating data centers and moving to the AWS cloud. So let's deep dive on how some of those migrations are done, and then we'll go into modernizations for our customers. Is that a
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay. So as I mentioned, some of the customers they come to us originally to say, look, I have a VMware environment as an example that I have a contract renewal coming up at a certain time, and I'm quite concerned about the cost implications. And I have to go to the board and request money to renew this license agreement. And we're seeing that with a lot of providers in the industry right now. And they're looking at AWS to say, help me with this renewal date that I have and help me become more agile and efficient in the cloud and take advantage of the services that we're speaking about. So we start with that, but then what we're finding is, but wait, we're seeing Oracle Exadata, we're seeing all of these other tightly coupled services with low latency requirements. There's a mainframe as well. And by the way, we have 3 data centers around the world, and we may as well just consider the whole thing. So I think that's a pretty common scenario that we're looking at, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, and the customer want to feel comfortable when they're doing it. I mean, we are talking about customers' bread and butter. It's data center move is a big decision that customers have to make, and sometimes it is. You talk about assess and mobilize. That's where we help them through the journey of doing those co-design, co-development activities with the customer, because that's when they actually see how it is done. They take a small piece of their workload in the very first week, move it to the cloud, and what this exercise actually does is actually, in many cases, the customer have skill set gaps. Once they go through this exercise with a smaller workload, they are able to understand what is involved, what are the gaps, and what they need to do to fill those gaps. And sometimes it's a light bulb moment for them. Hey, we can do that because we help build them those automations and tried and tested methodologies, which take a lot of heavy lifting or the manual intervention out of the process so that repeating that or scaling with other workloads becomes easier and easier as we go with them.
Well, and that's a good point. I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with how ProServe typically staffs these projects. And to what you say, like if a customer's confronted with the challenge of, okay, I have a license renewal at a certain date, I have all these things that we spoke about earlier, where do I start? And how ProServe gets involved is we usually assess the as-built estate, and we have a number of ISV tools or internal tools that can help us do that, or even some of the existing vendor tools can do exports of that. And how AI is accelerating that experience right now. I'll give you one example. We often get an Excel file, a flat list of all the servers, all the IP addresses, and the location of these servers, and whether they're on or off. We have a full inventory. And we can now put that file through AWS Transform to come up with a couple of migration scenarios for us. It can do the actual wave plan of these servers to give us some insights as to which servers should move first and which should move last and what's the safest way to wave plan out these servers. And we usually have staff to do that, which now we've reduced our staffing model to do that. Same thing applies for the network build out. We take those IP addresses and we can now build a virtual private cloud on AWS, the VPC, based on the information that we have in the customer's environment. AWS Transform can build those VPCs for us. That used to take a traditional couple of weeks or a couple of people to do in a very complex, and again, for a regulated environment, that's quite an undertaking. So that's some immediate examples we're seeing on the assess front with AWS Transform. What about when it comes to actually doing the migration for servers and database? Yasir, what are you seeing?
I mean, on the database side, one of the things is that AWS Transform, if the database is hosted in one of the VMware servers, it will take care of the migration of your database. And that's the rehost pattern where we do kind of a lift and shift, and that is a straightforward thing. We get into complications when the customer have certain licensing restrictions or other limitations due to which they cannot move their database as is to the target. And that's where we need to come up with solution of what to do. That's where in those cases we need to sit with customer and come up with the right strategy of whether we upgrade and then modernize, or whether we actually do the refactor pattern. That comes more in the modernization discussion, but we have great AI ML capabilities coming over there. I alluded to DMS, schema conversion capability. So we use those patterns to help customers do the replatform or refactoring of their application code to the modern platform. So our customers can right now go and play with the great thing about what we are doing is that these services are available for our customers. The AWS Transform, Kiro, DMS. Customers can go right there, experiment, play, and see what works for them and continue to build on that.
Okay, so we see the AI tools, and AWS Transform specifically, help us with the acceleration of the assessment information and help us with the wave planning and the network build-out, which is very helpful on some of those sensitive parts of the projects in the early stages. We're seeing AWS Transform and other tools help us for the database migration experience. And some of those, keep in mind, that is the crown jewels of a lot of these companies. And those databases contain sensitive information. They're surrounded by other servers with tightly coupled low latency experiences. And that's hard to do. And we have some AI helping us on recommendations and patterns and practices to do that. But then we have the source code in some cases for custom applications. And what is that like? And I'll tell you, AWS Transform has another capability for .NET capabilities for migration, where it literally looks at source code and helps us understand the interoperability of applications, the dependencies that these applications have, and can help us rewrite those legacy .NET applications on new and take advantage of new services of AWS. And of course, you joked about AI not quite replacing Yaser and Brad and people out there. And again, I come back to the concept of being surrounded by a constellation of agents to really accelerate our roles with the customer and allow us to take on more work at scale and actually take on more scope. So it's not just a VMware migration. It might be VMs, it might be custom applications, and it might be the mainframe. And therefore, we can go to customers now, I think, with a complete solution set based on a number of different technologies that are available to us and through our ISVs to really give a comprehensive approach for our customers and a choice to efficiently and effectively and safely move to AWS.
Absolutely. It's not about replacing humans. It's like giving more power to the humans to do more. Yeah. We only have a limited amount of time per day. So rather than there's one solution which has been tried and tested in the past, just add more brain power to solve the problem. Now we have these agents that can come in and augment what we are doing. And I love your analogy about these agents surrounding us, because that's what we have already started doing within our day-to-day jobs. These agents, I don't whenever it comes to narrative writing, I love to go to our internal tool, make sure everything is up to the standards that we have. Rather than me spending an hour refining and cleaning up, it is really evolving how we are actually working. So that's one small example, but every other aspect, I'll share one of the examples when we go into the database, the modernization piece of it. It's really interesting how we are able to look at the problems with a different mindset now. How do we bring in the agentic solution to solve that? I'm not saying that every solution, everything that we do is immediately transformed to agent. There are some things which will take more time, but we are constantly evolving and improving. So our customers the good thing about AWS is that whatever we do, whatever we experiment, our customers are going to be able to leverage them. And they are already taking benefit of that through AWS Transform, Kiro, Amazon Q, and I'm sure a lot more is coming their way.
Well, and that's a good point, Yasir. And I think at AWS, it's always day one. And I think we truly live that in the sense that, yes, we've been doing database migrations and lift and shift and rehost migrations for quite some time. And just to be clear, of the 3 migration patterns that we're focusing on, so rehost is pretty straightforward for us. That's taking the as-built and putting a like for like from as-built to on AWS. Then there's the re-platform, which is, okay, maybe take this legacy OS of SUSE or Ubuntu or Windows and update that and maybe change the Java runtime or something and upgrade that and put that onto an EC2 in a new re-platformed, up-to-date, supported server experience. And then there's the full refactor. Like, that's the 3 R patterns of the 7 that we're speaking about, how AI accelerates that. But I think before we move on to modernization, one thing I do want to point out is how we're incorporating this in our everyday lives at AWS. And I'll give you a couple examples. You said writing narratives is one. Another example is we have some internal processes and how we run our team from a reporting perspective to a process and procedure perspective to even a compatibility of what customers are sending us. Like, can we actually migrate this based on legacy? And we have AI now that tells us what is capable to do and what is required prior to doing a migration. But then we're also enabling the field to experiment by doing internal hackathons. And maybe you can speak to that, Yaser, but how we're scaling AI tools across our entire workforce organization to incorporate that into their daily lives. And as our broader field creates agents, we can leverage those agents to, guess what? Accelerate what we're doing for customers. So we're creating this ecosystem that really allows us, I think, to add value and benefit to the entire experience. And final comment, it's not just the technology, it's the people, process, and technology. And AI categorically is influencing every one of those areas, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you touched upon the hackathon piece as well, Brad. I think we know of use cases that we want to convert into agentic. We have converted a lot of them. But what these hackathons allow us to do is that go beyond what Brad and Yasir are thinking. Open the gates to our thousands of builders within AWS to come up with those unique ideas related to our customers' migration, modernization journey, related to our internal processes associated with those migration and modernization, how we can leverage these new technologies to think through them. So right now we are organizing a big hackathon. It's planned for end of this year. We're expecting thousands of builders to come. We have already narrowed down specific use cases that we want solutions for. We want hackers to come up with innovative ideas, but we are also welcoming new ideas from our builders. The idea, Brad, is that I believe that this hackathon model needs to be with our customers as well, because as they are migrating, modernizing, they will be able to think differently once they are able to open up the doors for experimentation, because a huge amount of power is coming through these AI innovations. The Strands library, SDK, which was released by AWS, it allows you to easily spin up agents, swarms of agents to do things so easily. I mean, once our builders, our customers get their hand on it, start playing with it, they start realizing that, hey, the word agentic AI seems like there's some magic, but it is a power they can control very easily through Kiro and Strands SDK. So it's amazing transformation that we are seeing with our customers and within our organization.
Yeah, I agree. And let's maybe summarize the migration part and move on to modernization. I think some good metrics that we're seeing from migration and modernization before AI even came along is engaging with ProServe and expert services, providing oversight and guidance and experiences to that ProServe experience. we're generally seeing about a 50% cost improvement
Yeah.
and a migration acceleration when they used our traditional tools of rapid migration hyperautomation. But now with the influence of AI, I think we're seeing an additional 50%, if not greater, 75% in some cases, or 90% in some cases, for that wave planning and network planning and assessment part. And then AI is actually now doing the migrations for us in some cases in controlled ways with customers. So it varies, mileage varies with tools and people and process that we include, but I think migrations in general, I'm not seeing customers move unless there's a 50% improvement to what they're doing today. And then if ProServe is engaged with that customer, then I think we're seeing a 50% increase or reduction in time frame to do that migration project. And basically, part of that people, process, and technology is also enabling the customer so we can do the migration and allow them to conduct and operate their business after we leave, because that's important as well as making sure that when we hand them the keys to their new platform that they're already part of that collaborative migration experience and they understand what it's like to operate in this new environment. So let's now talk about modernization, which is often phase 2 of a project, phase 1 migrate, phase 2, but we're seeing more customers X-ray, in other words, not do that migration, and they're just modernizing directly to the cloud in some cases, not appropriate for all, but maybe talk to me about some of the things that you're seeing there, Yaser, from a modernization perspective.
Yeah. So modernization, I mean, the customers are, once they are in AWS, it unlocks a lot of things for them. Then they do get cost benefits, Brad. We have seen our customers, just by migrating, they are able to reduce their ARR, their annual spend on the services. But once they start modernizing, they break their monoliths, move to our serverless architectures, move to purpose-built databases. That's where they start seeing the even further reduction in their cost of ownership. One of the things that have been deeply involved in the modernization of our customers using legacy applications, using .NET framework, that's where you see that the customers are, when they are in .NET framework, it's difficult to migrate to Linux. They have to be on Windows and the licensing costs come with it. Many customers ask for a way to start that modernization journey. That's where the traditional model, we have been working with customers, bringing them the expertise in these conversions. And now what we are doing is we are bringing in the AI capabilities to help them accelerate that journey for them. We have tools. You talked about AWS Transform with .NET capability. That's an amazing tool. It is speeding up the conversion of .NET framework to cross-platform .NET by almost 4x. And once customers move to Linux, and they are able to deploy their application to Linux, they are able to reduce their licensing cost almost by 40%, up to 40%. So that is a cost saving that comes into play. And that migration is becoming simpler because our AI services, AWS Transform, is making it easier for our customers to do it. Cost effective, and the customer is able to save on their TCO, total cost of ownership, once they have migrated.
Well, and you brought up a point earlier about how we ideate internally by doing and then building and creating agents and then delivering value to customers, and that flywheel keeps going. And the hackathon is a big part of that. And I think the other key word is the ability to do the prototyping rapidly. And I'll give you an example. A gentleman from my team was in Europe working with an energy trader. And they had everything you said from a legacy perspective, a .NET application built in the early 2000s, a large team of developers maintaining and building new capabilities for that application, but pretty static in terms of that was the livelihood of this organization. And through Kiro, which is our integrated development environment, which is in preview right now, the gentleman on my team was able to use natural language to rebuild that application on legacy platform, similar look and feel, a multimodal application, meaning every time you click a button, a big window opens up and you're 6, 7 windows deep after a while. But it was a pretty big application. And through natural language, it was able to rebuild that application using Kiro, which is not even publicly available yet. It's in preview mode only. And then the same person took that same application and said, modernize this application to a Java-based, web-based application on AWS. And that took, dare to say, a couple of minutes to do that transformation. So I think the ability to rapidly prototype and ideate and envision the art of the possible with some of our AI tools, Kiro specifically, and then knowing that they can fall back on some of our release tools like AWS Transform and then ProServe behind that to back the entire experience, that is profoundly all new and has changed in the last 12 months. And that is something that our customers, I think, have yet to realize and benefit from. And the hackathon experience you mentioned earlier as well, I think, is a great way to allow customers to co-invest in this experience with us and understand the edge of what we're upon, I think, with AI and how it influences our people and our internal processes and our migration and modernization and database focuses that we have, because we are seeing some real value and impact in the early days of this experience, I think, on the database front and on the server front and on the refactor front as well.
Absolutely. And I like the point that you shared about your team member doing this kind of environment, creating the application with Kiro. That is a new mental model that we will be shifting towards. We'll see more and more of that happening, because I know we can show them customer, hey, this is a nice slide, this is what target can look like. But when customers see the power of these tools, of what is the art of the possible, it's amazing experience. You can use natural language to transform your code, do rapid prototyping, see the look and feel, change the look and feel by just interacting with the tool and see what you like and quickly move forward. So this rapid prototyping model is, I believe, we are going to see more and more, and our customers are going to experiment on their own with these tools like Kiro and AWS Transform. They are going to unlock a lot of power over there. I just want to touch upon one other thing, Brad, that we have these amazing services coming up, and they will continue to evolve and cover more and more use cases. What we also have is our foundational capabilities, like AWS Bedrock allows us to have all the key foundation models available for us to directly work with them to build anything using those capabilities. So we have one customer, they have thousands of legacy databases. And there is an end of life coming for that specific database version. And the customer, if they start getting out of their database right now, they cannot do that within the timeline that they have. Mm-hmm. The only option for them is to innovate in that space. That's where our team is coming in to build new solution, build on top of these Bedrock LLMs that we have. So what those solutions look like is we leverage the schema conversion capabilities that are already out there as part of our AWS schema conversion tool or database migration service schema conversion capability. It augments that. So if schema conversion tool is able to convert 60% of the schema on its own, it takes it one step further, uses these agents, uses our refined, fine-tuned data that we provide to these models to complete the conversion or make it much closer to the finish line. It does not stop there. We are building some frameworks on top of it to actually test out what has been converted, because we have been seeing, at least a few months back, a number of things as the models are evolving. Their maturity, their capability is improving, but we need to be aware and conscious of any hallucination impact. So what we are building is we using, again, the Bedrock capabilities to generate those test cases as we convert, run those test cases, and make sure the conversions are solid. This is more of a custom solution, built on top of AWS foundational capabilities as well. That is also coming into play more and more, Brad, as our customers are pretty diverse and they have unique scenarios that we work with. So, yeah, and you talked about Commonwealth Bank of Australia. They also leveraged bedrock models to come up with those transformations. It's pretty amazing how our customers are leveraging those foundational capabilities to innovate on their own as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And ProServe was engaged with Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and I think a lot of customers are asking us that. Like we understand you're AWS and you have lots of tools and you're pretty good at this because you're ProServe and you work with those tools every day. But how do we leverage your expertise? How do we become AWS within our industry? And how do we build software as a service and leverage AI to give us these new capabilities? And again, with confidence and sincerity, I see this and do this every day with our customers. And some are at the bottom left corner just getting started. I can spell AWS and I can spell AI, but where do I start? And that's hard, right? Because they have a complex environment that they're managing on their own, and then we're bringing in new tools, and customers have choice, and they're trying to make a selection of a long-term cloud provider for the next 7 to 10 or 15 years, and they're taking their time deciding what is the best approach and what are the tools within and who are the people at the end of the day that can help me do that. And again, it's nice to see us working at that level with customers at all levels of within the customer to provide assurance, provide guidance, provide experiences and patterns and practices. But also what you said is we are doing some custom work. But back to the flywheel that we mentioned, I believe that everything we are doing is being placed into an agentic way of life where we can now leverage all of these agents. And in the fullness of time, impossible to say, but there'll be less and less custom, right? Because we'll have a full library of capabilities to leverage from others providing good work from their experiences. Back to the hackathon as an example, we're going to come out of that with thousands of use cases that we can incorporate in our next customer engagement.
Yeah.
And to speak about some of the benefits, so let's maybe summarize what we're seeing from a modernization perspective now from a customer benefit. So migration, yeah, at least a 50% cost reduction and performance enhancement is what we're seeing when moving to AWS. But what about modernization? What's that doing for customers for specific workloads and vendors that they might be managing from a licensing perspective?
I can give you an example of commercial databases. Customers, as part of this modernization journey, Brad, many of the customers think of how do they get out of the licensing model of these commercial databases. And what they do is they leverage our capabilities, database migration service, schema conversion with GenAI capability that allows them to do the schema conversion, get to one of the open source options like Postgres or MySQL, whether on RDS or Aurora. These are the patterns our customers are also going in with as they modernize their workload. And the Aurora with same comparable commercial database, they can be 1/10 of the cost for same price performance benefit. So it's pretty amazing. Customers are able to save significantly by eliminating the licensing. But when we speak of modernization, it is not just about moving from this database to this database. It is, in many cases, Brad, you'll see that decade ago, 2 decades ago, the mindset was that you have one relational database and everything is crammed into that database. Now we have within AWS, we have purpose-built databases to serve different types of data workloads. And once customers start working on this modernization journey, they specifically look for right database for their use cases. For some of the use cases, maybe the relational option, one of the open source databases, MySQL or Postgres is a better suit for it. But in other cases, maybe their latency requirements are so low, a sub-millisecond latency SLA from DynamoDB might be a better fit. So what our customers are doing as part of these modernization journeys is thinking rethinking, in fact, of how they should be thinking about their data. And it does not end over there. Migration, modernization, and then innovation. Whenever they are thinking of data, the next step is immediate. How do we unlock the potential of this data and do something innovative for their users and their end customers, bringing in AI capabilities? And uh, and as they build those solid data platform as part of this modernization journey, they are able to easily leverage our whole ecosystem or services to quickly integrate and get them to the value, to the insights. I was talking to you about an example of one of our customers who did the migration modernization, but now they are innovating in a sense that one of the use cases that they shared was they had a turnaround time. Whenever a big issue happened, they had a turnaround time of around up to 3 weeks to investigate what the issue is, go through all the logs, human will analyze everything and come up with the conclusion or root cause analysis. Now what they are doing is they have created these agentic AI solutions that processes all the logs in S3 buckets, goes through them based on the heuristics or prompt engineering, all that fed into that agentic AI to quickly come up with the right root cause for the human to see, evaluate, confirm within an hour that this is all good and move forward. So saving time from weeks to hours of response time, this is one of the examples, and there are unimaginable. I'm sure you have tens of examples on your fingertips, Brad, that you're seeing our customers innovate with these capabilities and technologies.
Well, and that's a good point, Yasir, because sometimes we get caught up in the technology and let me tell you all about the Aurora database, and customers might be thinking, well, why do I move from one database to the other? What's the point? And I think you made a couple of good points there. Point one is, traditionally, customers have overloaded the use profile of legacy databases. I remember the first migration project that I did for AWS. Customer had 75,000 stored procedures in a SQL Server database. And the next customer call I did, same week, the customer had in excess of 1 million stored procedures in a single SQL Server database. And that disables capabilities for root cause analysis because you're looking at a platform that's not necessarily built that way. So I think part one is why modernize? Because it allows you to leverage purpose-built services for the job at hand and not overload legacy systems that are not necessarily the most appropriate tool. Thing one. I think two, cost savings and performance is built into that and expected. Otherwise, many customers won't choose to do that. But I think the third part is the ability to innovate rapidly and then serve their customers better and either maintain or gain market share and take advantage of AWS services in new ways that they couldn't necessarily serve their customers in. And that's where this modernization capability comes into play, is allowing customers to be quick and address the needs and response capabilities faster, and then also get into markets that they may not be in that well. So I think there's two things. We talked about migration, which is removing from the fixed costs of concrete and steel and servers and getting that into the cloud, so you eliminate those fixed costs that customers have. But then it's the software capabilities, which I think is where the magic happens. And you combine that with AI and take advantage of all these new capabilities that were not even dreamed of before by some of the developers who originally wrote these applications 20 years ago, decades ago, 30, 40 years ago in some cases of what we're seeing. So I think we're just getting started. I know we're just getting started, and the outcomes are going to be quite profound in terms of what we see, what we've seen already this year. But I also think of just what's coming, and that's where the thrill ride ahead is, I think, going to be quite exciting.
Yeah.
So you can go. Sorry?
Yeah. I just want to add that for our customers, I think it is important for them as they are going through this migration and modernization journey. Some customers are already thinking of the final destination, the innovation that they will be able to do. But the other customers who have not thought through that process, it would be great as they are getting on that modernization cycle, think through the capabilities or the right architectures that will help them unlock the next step for them, the innovation part. Because we work with customers, especially on the data space, Brad, that whatever AI capabilities you build, it will be as good as the data you provided. And the customers are seeing challenges with diverse data and bringing that all together to get to real valuable applications on top of that data. That becomes a challenge. So what we talk to our customers is that as you're getting on that modernization journey, think through the final destination of where you want to be in terms of your AI innovation capabilities and start embedding those capabilities right there and then in your modernized architecture so that your next step will become easier. So I'll give you an example of one of the customers who have migrated, who have completed the modernization as well. But since they did not think through the process, now they are going back to the drawing board and trying to come up with the right strategy of what their modern data platform should look like. Because having a solid data platform is essential to build some solid AI innovation on top of it. So their diverse database stacks, their diverse structured, unstructured data formatting, it was slowing down their next step. So just a guidance for our customers as they think through the modernization phase, think how it will gonna impact the next steps that they're gonna take.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe as we close here, Yaser, we can talk about how ProServe Expert Services helps our customers do this. I'm not saying we're involved in every project, nor should we be, but we generally are involved in some of the largest household names that are moving to AWS in the world. And I think customers look to us for that guidance of how do I get started? You've told a good story, and I have a complex story as a customer. Great, now what do I do with that? So let's maybe talk about some actionable next steps that customers can take. And I have a few ideas. The easiest one, if you've never seen the AWS, if you want to get introduced to the AWS AI capabilities, go to aws.com and look at the bottom left corner or right corner, depending on how your browser is configured, and use the Ask AWS icon, which is a web-based chatbot to allow you to synthesize all the data on aws.com and have interactive conversations of show me how to do a migration or find me that white paper that gives me customer guidance for how to do a migration. So that's a first place to start. But how can expert services and ProServe writ large around the world accelerate our customers in their journey?
Yeah. By the way, I love the Ask AWS capability because just a quick note, I was looking for some specific information. I went to the page. I was using the traditional approach of Control F, find it, and I was having some hard time. But then I said, hey, click on that, ask the question, and voila. I had the answer where it is. So it really makes things easier. These AI innovations are amazing. From our customer perspective, how do they start? They have access to our AWS Transform. Get started. Get your hands dirty. Play with it. Especially play with Kiro. It's amazing. What you can do with it, it will unlock your thinking as well. Because sometimes when we are thinking more in traditional ways, we are not able to imagine the art of possible. So what this small experiments with these AI innovations will do is it will open up your mind to know what you can and cannot do right now. And going to your question of what our ProServe and expert services can do, we have all these amazing services. Customers are using it and customers are getting benefit from it. What professional services can help is that we work with a large number of customers. We see different types of challenges. We are able to interlink what those problems and patterns are. We are able to refine our approach over the years. And that is the knowledge we can bring to our customers. And expert services within that, we have top subject matter experts in different domains. It's great working with all the experts from ProServe.
Yeah, that's a good point, Yasser. And I think what we're getting much better at now is allowing AI to synthesize and harvest vast amounts of information, whether it's a website or whether it's all the experiences we have or even the agents that are yet to be built, to accelerate the entire ecosystem of customers in their journey, whatever it may be, to AWS. Or it could be legacy, there could be taking on replatforming applications, or it could be lift and shifts from mainframes to Windows servers to Linux servers, et cetera. And what I'm finding is it is complex, but we're able to now learn from so much information, leverage AI, and leverage AI to tell us what is the simplest or the fastest or the safest approach to do our jobs, whether it's an internal process or it's a customer-facing assistance sort of project with migration, modernization, and database and application replatform. So I've personally found it to be an extension and an accelerator of what I do on a daily basis, along with our team, in terms of how we collaborate and how we deliver services to our customers from a professional services perspective.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate the power of hackathon, Brad. I love that idea that right now when we talk to customers, a lot of them are unable to imagine what they can do with these capabilities. It's gonna help our customers to think through different use cases, different possibilities, and experiment and come up with something tangible that they can demonstrate to the rest of the organization. The other benefit that comes out of it is that the customer builders are able to actually work on those things, and while they are doing it, they are upskilling. They are learning a new capability. They are understanding the power that is easily available to them. So, amazing thing, innovation. The call to action, I think, for the customers would be go experiment with these powerful capabilities which are coming out. And build something, and then they'll realize what can and cannot be done. So amazing.
And I'm gonna supersize that. And if you're really customers and partners and running into some challenges or have some questions, give AWS a call and give ProServe a call to really help us share some of our patterns and practices with you, because we're seeing a lot. We haven't seen it all, but we're hoping that we can really accelerate your journey to the cloud. So Yasir, it was excellent to speak with you today in person, and looking forward to collaborating with you again on this AI journey.
Absolutely, Brad. And it was, as always, a pleasure talking to you.
And thank you all for tuning in to this version of the AWS Migration and Modernization podcast.